So, I've been watching some people play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I have noticed that quite a few of them aren't quite using the game mechanics to its fullest potential. Granted, it is the very beginning of the game, but there is a basic structure you should keep in mind when going into fights, especially for boss battles, fiend intel fights, and playing on the dynamic difficulty. The basic structure of Final Fantasy VII's combat is to build your ATB, pressure your opponent, and then stagger them. This is probably something that is already immediately obvious, but there are some nuances that I have noticed that people just aren't taking. You already know by now that you build ATB by using basic attacks and unique triangle abilities. The unique triangle abilities for certain characters builds a ton of ATB really quickly. Things like Barrett's Overcharge and Tifa's Chi skills boost their ATB gauges really quickly. So keep that in mind to build your ATB just a lot faster to make fights a lot more efficient and effective. And then when it comes to pressuring an enemy, if you haven't already, you need to figure out what causes an enemy to become pressured by assessing. Pressuring an opponent is a very specific state, and causing pressure varies from enemy to enemy. Sometimes it's as easy as just exploiting their elemental weakness, but other times it's dealing enough damage while they cast a certain skill. In times like these, you should leverage their weakness while they are casting their skill to deal enough damage to cause them to become pressured. Because a lot of the times, the casting of their skill is a very limited time window. Other ways to pressure enemies is sometimes to just dodge or block a certain attack. Bottom line, you need to figure out what triggers that monster's pressure state. Here are a couple of examples from the Junon region which aren't just immediately obvious. Against one of the Fiend Intel monsters, the Faunadu, you need to inflict enough damage first, and then you have to dodge one of its abilities in order to get it to be pressured. Specifically for the Faunadu, dodging the Death from Above ability is what's going to cause it to become pressured, and then once you do so, then lay on all of your staggering abilities. And then, for example, for the Whimsilet, you need to inflict enough damage while it is casting Soothing Breeze. So while it's casting, by using ice skills and ice magic attacks is going to be the best way to deal enough damage while casting that ability. Bottom line, figure out what triggers that pressure state and make that your priority when dealing with these tougher monsters. And then, of course, once pressured, you want to be using your attacks that increase the staggered gauge significantly. Using these abilities against a non-pressured foe is significantly less efficient. So if you're using things like Focused Shot and Focused Thrust, and they're not pressured, you are severely limiting the efficiency of your abilities and ATB charges. And so at the beginning of the game, for the first three main party members, Cloud, Barret, and Tifa, all of their focused attacks are the attacks that will increase the stagger gauge. Aerith and Red 13 actually don't have a focused attack that will significantly increase the stagger gauge. Cloud and Barret will increase the gauge the most because theirs literally says it will significantly increase the stagger gauge, and Tifa's is a moderate increase to the stagger gauge. So it definitely behooves you to have at least one of these focused abilities on your team at all times. So make sure you are pressuring your opponents before you use these focused attacks to increase that stagger gauge. And then, of course, once staggered, we kind of already understand, but this is when you just want to unleash all of your super powerful offensive abilities. And, of course, at the start of the game, you got Braver from Cloud, Maximum Fury from Barret, Sidewinder from Red 13, Dive Kick from Tifa, Sorcerer's Storm from Aerith. Those are all great choices to use when the enemy is down and staggered. Now, exclusive to Tifa, she's able to actually increase the stagger bonus damage multiplier. The damage multiplier starts at 1.6 and you can get all the way up to 300%. By using her unique triangle attacks like Omni Strike and Rise and Fall, she increases the damage output you deal when the opponent is down. So if you can stock up on her chi charges before you stagger by using her Unbridled Strength ability, then you can get some really significant gains in damage when you stagger the enemy. Also, a quick little tip for Cloud's Braver to maximize that damage output while an enemy is down is to use it while airborne. So first you just want to dodge and then hold down the basic attack button square, and this will cause Cloud to go airborne even on grounded opponents. Then you unleash the full might of Braver. So anyway, all of these things are explained as part of the tutorial and the manual in the game, but sometimes it just doesn't click right away. And hopefully this video has made things more clear. So go ahead, get out there and play more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.